It's that time of year, firstly where most people have already given up on their New Year's resolutions, but it's also where students across the country find out whether they've gotten into Oxford or Cambridge. For a lot of us, it's bad news that we've been rejected. Now, if you've watched me before, you might be thinking, what do you know about getting rejected from Oxbridge? Your channel is literally 90% about the fact that you went to Cambridge. But I'm going to tell you a secret, so listening closely. I got rejected from Oxford for a master's, and it was a dark day. So let's talk about getting rejected from Oxbridge. Firstly, it's okay to be upset. People saying like, stop crying, get over it. You're going to go to a good uni. It's going to be fine. On some level, it feels invalidating to hear this because you've worked so hard to make this application. At undergrad, you've sent off your UCAS early. You've sat the special admissions test for your course. And if you got an interview, you've prepared for the interview. You've put your studies on hold just so you can prepare for this interview. And if you're like me, you'll have watched a bunch of videos on YouTube of people sharing their lives at Oxbridge, going to formal dinners, walking down the cobbled streets and having a grand old time. And you just know if you were there, life would be amazing. So to find out all of that work didn't come to fruition sucks. And it almost sucks more if you had an interview because you felt like you were on the cusp. So being upset is entirely valid. At the same time, be mindful of number two. What exactly are you thinking when you're upset? One aspect of cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, is about identifying unhelpful thinking styles. You don't need to be someone who goes to therapy or someone who needs therapy to benefit from this. We all use these kinds of thinking styles to an extent. Maybe we'll go into overgeneralizing, everything's always rubbish, like nothing good ever happens to me. Basically seeing a pattern based on this single event that you didn't get into Oxbridge. Catastrophizing, like I haven't gone into Oxbridge, therefore I won't be a success, I won't make money, I won't be happy. We might assign a label to ourselves like I'm stupid, I'm useless, I'm such an idiot. We might use critical words like should, must, or ought. I should have gotten into Oxbridge, but I didn't. All this does is serve to make us feel guilty, and basically that feeds into the other thought you might have that you're a failure or you're useless. Mental filter, only paying attention to certain types of evidence, really noticing our failures but failing to see our successes. And I'm sure if you've applied to Oxbridge that your life hasn't just been a string of failures. It's likely that you've had a lot of successes. Now it's kind of culminated in this one application where it feels like all of that has been suddenly invalidated, when it's not true. These are positive events from your past that are still successes now, even if Oxbridge didn't give you an offer. Emotional reasoning, because we feel a certain way, then what we think must be true. I feel ashamed, therefore I must be a failure. I might feel embarrassed that I've not gotten into Oxbridge, so therefore I must be an idiot. And personalization. I didn't get into Oxbridge and it's all my fault. It's not necessarily true. There's so many things in the Oxbridge application process that are out of our control. You've had to trust that your teachers have written you a good reference. You might have just had a bad day in the admissions test. Your interviewer might not have asked the sort of questions to let you shine the most. So maybe it's not all your fault that you haven't gotten into Oxbridge. Maybe you're not a giant failure. You're not stupid. You're not embarrassing. There's no shame in having these unhelpful thinking styles sometimes. I do all of these. To be honest, I do all of these at some point, even now that I know about them. But the fact you now know about them as well can hopefully allow you to catch them when you're doing them. And the very act of catching them is the first step into reducing them. Number three, it's important to remember that you're not alone if you got rejected from Oxbridge. You're very much in the majority. Across the board, 1 in 6 people who apply to Oxbridge get in. So that is over 80% of people who apply to Oxbridge don't get in. And in certain courses, it can be a much lower chance of getting in. For example, the one I applied to at Oxford, that's what I tell myself. Even when it comes to interview, most people that interview don't get in. So if you interviewed there, firstly, that is still a big achievement. Secondly, the fact you have interviewed and not gotten in isn't a sign that you're some kind of odd one out or embarrassment at Oxbridge. All these thoughts are really easy to have, but they're not true. Maybe you're in a friendship circle where friends have gotten into Oxbridge and you haven't. And that hurts a lot if you've like built some kind of dream together with your friends about going to Oxbridge. Just remember, regardless of the people in your immediate circle, you really aren't alone in getting rejected from Oxbridge. So many people get rejected. My hope making this video is even if you've got rejected and everyone in your friendship circle or everyone in your school's gotten in somehow, you'll have a place here. Hopefully with the way the algorithm works, we can have multiple of us here who have been rejected from Oxbridge, show some solidarity to one another, but also that life is not simply over by the fact we haven't gotten into Oxbridge. Life finds a way of working itself out, is what I believe. I think rejection, not just from Oxbridge, but life generally, is great. I know from my experience that it can give you a fire in your belly to prove people wrong. You'll get rejected for a lot of things in life, whether that's in sports, in jobs, in friendships, dating, housing, bank accounts, whatever it may be. Basically, it ties back to that pretty cheesy quote that's been rehashed a bunch of times because the internet literally attributes the same quote to hundreds of different people. I'd like to pick the philosopher Batman, specifically Alfred in Batman Begins. He says, "Why do we fall? So we can learn to pick ourselves up." Rejection is just part and parcel of life. And it means that when successes do eventually come around, they just feel that little bit sweeter. Fifth, Oxbridge is not what defines being smart and successful. Take Oxbridge down from the pedestal. I met a lot of smart people at Cambridge, but people on my masters at UCL are probably some of the smartest people I've met, and none of them went to Oxbridge. In terms of career success at this age, 22, people from my school who have been the most successful probably haven't gone to Oxbridge on the whole. I think the truth about being smart or successful is actually really boring. There aren't just a select few of us walking the earth who are the gifted ones, and those are the ones who get into Oxbridge and are special. I think smartness and being a success is actually the product of hard work in the long run. The cringy quote that hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard, I think it's probably true. Growing up, you might have been labelled a gifted child, and the thing is, Oxbridge would just fit this label perfectly. Be this special kid who's been the top of every class in school and now has been selected from a huge pool to attend an institution with such beautiful architecture and amazing history. But now you haven't got in. So are you special? Are you gifted anymore? I think the sooner you let go of these labels, the better. They obviously came from a loving place and were based on evidence of you being a huge achiever in school. In the long run, I think it's probably made me complacent. I think it feeds into why I procrastinate so much, because if I fail an assignment or do really badly and I procrastinated, it means I can attribute the worst mark to the fact I procrastinated. And that allows me to cling on to the label of being smart or gifted or whatever. And the label gives you a pressure to appear like you aren't confused by anything, when so many topics you can ask me and I'll be like, no idea, mate. Getting rejected from Oxford, you have a perfect chance to embrace letting go of these labels. So basically, you don't need to go to Oxbridge to be smart and successful. And also consider, do you need to label yourself smart or gifted? Could those labels be holding you back in some way? Finally, consider, did you want to go to Oxbridge, or did you want your parents' approval? As I've said, if you apply to Oxbridge, you'll likely have achieved a lot of things already. You might be top of your class in some subjects, or really good at something extracurricular. And these are big achievements, but parents can put a lot of pressure, continuous pressure, on us to achieve high. What better thing to brag about to the WhatsApp mums than, my child has gotten into Oxbridge? It's an unbelievable flex. But if you didn't get into Oxbridge, it can feel like you've not only disappointed yourself, but your parents too. And this can feel like such a heavy burden to carry. I'm going to try and word this using my inner family therapist. How conditional is your parents' love on what you've achieved in life? So when you think of why your parents love you, or when you felt the most love from them, is that connected to when you've achieved the greatest things? Would you be worthy of love if all your achievements in life got stripped away? Do you feel like you have intrinsic value as a person, independent of all these external achievements? Sometimes if our parents have treated us in this like achievement orientated way, we can like internalize that, and that becomes how we treat ourselves. I only have value if I'm achieving big things. Consider like what going to Oxbridge meant to you. Did it mean more than just I'm going to get into the best academic institutions in the country or have the best education? Did it mean something to do with like wanting your parents' approval? You can not go to Oxbridge and still have intrinsic value as a person. Think about how you treat yourself when you don't achieve exactly what you want to. How can you be kind to yourself about not getting into Oxbridge? Does that make you less of a human? No. Does that make you less worthy of love from people? No. We won't achieve everything we set out to, and that's okay. And on that therapeutic note, we're at the end of today's video. If you disagreed with everything I had to say today, just remember that you can apply again, either for undergrad by taking a gap year, or for postgrad after doing your undergrad somewhere else. The Oxbridge dreams don't necessarily have to die yet, but what lessons can you take from this rejection today about how you think when you're upset, about your relationship to rejection, and your idea of what smart and successful looks like, as well as how kind are you to yourself? How much of your self-worth is tied up in what you achieve? Some more basic and more therapeutic lessons to be learned there. Finally, if you found this channel through my Cambridge content know that you can stick around even if you're not interested in Cambridge or Oxford, as I find my identity independent of the fact I went to Cambridge by making videos to do with psychology. I think there's some psychology to be seen in a lot of areas of life, including getting rejected from Oxbridge, but also in, I don't know, literally the fact I'm making this YouTube video at 3 a.m, procrastinating over it, and why am I doing this? I need to go to bed. Gonna leave it there. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you soon with another video.